Welcome to Tiny Hands, Big Dreams, here on the homestead in Southern Ecuador. What does it cost to live here in Ecuador?
It's an important question.
You probably want to know. That's why you're watching this video. We live here. We've lived here where we are now on our property for 2.5 years. We lived in Loja, which is the biggest city in Southern Ecuador, for a year. We can give you our best estimation of what's it cost to live. We came from the U.S. We have lived in various parts of the U.S. Tennessee last, Colorado before, Washington before that. So that's our perspective of where we're coming from.
Yeah, for some of these prices and information won't maybe be applicable to the rest of Ecuador. They might. We don't have firsthand knowledge. We try to only give firsthand knowledge and experience, not just what we heard from somebody else.
Yeah.
There are other people living in like Cuenca or Quito that might be able to give more detail to the costs of living in those particular areas.
Yeah.
But this is Southern Ecuador.
This is Southern Ecuador.
Both city and rural.
Yeah.
Because we are currently in the Orient, out in the middle of nowhere, which of course then the closest towns to us have different pricing than a big city does. So we have both perspectives.
Sometimes less, sometimes more.
It's true. All right. Rental houses or apartments or some place to live.
So you're going to get here and then you're going to find out that you have to have somewhere to stay. So we're going to try to do it like
somewhat chronological.
Like, I want to move to Ecuador. Okay, great. So you get here. Let's see. We were looking at apartments on the outside of Loja, and they were in the $300 to $400 range for a decent.
If it was a two bedroom,
2 bedroom,
2 or 3 bedroom.
Yeah, a few $100.
Just an apartment.
And that was on the city limits kind of area. If you're inside the city, it could be slightly higher. If it was slightly smaller things, there's a lot of modifiers. But expect that's ish. Now,
does that include utilities?
I don't believe so.
I don't think that it typically includes the utilities.
I don't think it does, but there are some that do.
So that will obviously shift the total price quite a bit.
Yeah. Utilities here are pretty cheap. Ecuador is known for some of the cheapest power in anywhere. It's real cheap. It's for like your low usage, less than 300 kilowatts a month, you're paying like 10 cents a kilowatt.
So in terms that other people might understand, how much per month would you typically be paying?
People here pay like $15 to $30 for a utility bill. Like it's pretty low.
Yeah. So back to rentals.
Right.
So we ended up renting a house.
We did.
For lots of personal reasons. On
the outskirts. Now, this house had a ton of land. It had a huge green strip, which was very unusual. We wanted to have goats.
We need somewhere to put a container. We just wanted some personal space.
It was
an apartment.
It was a big gated property. And we paid, admittedly, too much for it. But there was also, we had a real time limit.
Location at that point was very specific.
Yep.
So we ended up paying far more than we should have.
Oh, yeah. We paid $700 a month for that, which everyone said was like way too much. For $700, you should be able to get like a really fancy, nice, big, gianty house.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know some other people. I know one in Zamora that's a beautiful, small 2-bedroom, but absolute,
and that's rural.
Like gorgeous custom woodwork of like wood slab tables and things and crazy artistic everything. Like it's beautiful with glass porches. Dude was asking $400 a month, full utilities, internet, everything.
Furnished. And a lot of these things are furnished, partially or completely. Those are all sort of different, but it's something that you may not be used to from like the States, because most things that you rent are not furnished.
And he might have even come down from that a bit.
And that was on a river outside of town, right?
Yeah, it was literally private estate on the river, like overlooking the water, your own play area, many acres.
So then, like in our small local town, someone renting a room.
So the lowest end that I know about is it was a single room. Neighbor got in a motorcycle accident and couldn't get to and from his property here, so he was renting a room in town. And there's these it's kind of motel style, where there's a building and there's just like a series of rooms, and it was a single room with a bathroom. There was 2 beds, a dresser, and a TV. Like literally, like cheap motel,
yeah.
$100. And I think he's a local. He knows all the people. He's lived here his whole life. That's probably as cheap as it gets.
Or he probably would have found cheaper. Honestly, so.
Yeah.
If that's what he found, I'm guessing that is.
So I think that is the super low end. You're not gonna really get less than that unless you're renting a room from somebody.
Yeah, you may find some cheaper options, but that's kind of the.
But that's the low end. But for a rural house, $200.
Yeah.
I have a friend way down in Zumba, and I think he's paying a couple $100 a month for a full nice house, like tile floors and granite counters and like a yard and a fenced wall thing, like a couple $100.
Yep.
So
that is if you want to rent. Now, if you're looking to buy property, that is a different animal, which we did do a video on.
It's rather than rehash the whole thing here.
Yeah, we'll just talk about pricing here.
Sure.
But we have a whole video on how to find a property in Ecuador because there's a lot of details and specifics to that. But as far as pricing goes,
in cities, we were finding that it was
outside of our budget. Like in Loja,
it was like $10 a meter or something, like for land, and we were just sort of like.
I think it was even more than that in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
It was quite a lot for just very small little lots.
Yeah. That you would just put a little postage stamp house on.
Yeah.
Once you get rural, 1,000 an acre ish. If it's bigger property, it'll go cheaper. Mm-hmm. If it's a smaller property, it'll be more expensive. If it's closer to the main highway, a city, a town, a thing, it's a little more.
Yeah, the further out, that's true of, I think, everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
The further out you go, and the more land you usually get cheaper.
Yep.
Yeah. So a vehicle. If you want a vehicle to go searching for your property, because that is highly recommended. It's not impossible to do without a vehicle, but honestly, life becomes a lot easier with something here. The
German guy, we just met a German guy who was randomly here studying and collecting insects for his collection in Germany. Had a whole conversation with him yesterday. He made it to our property. He rented a car in Quito.
Okay, so for rent, you're talking about renting?
He rented a car. Yeah. I didn't ask him what it was, but it was like a nice modern Nissan or something. Okay. It is possible.
Oh, yeah. You can rent them, typically in the larger cities.
Yeah.
But for buying a vehicle.
Cars here are going to be more expensive. The bottom end is much higher for a running car.
You cannot get a cheap used car here. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah. So we bought our little van with 11 kajillion miles. That's a technical term.
You can. He doesn't actually say how many, does it?
No, it's rolled that odometer more than I'm not going to use a vulgar term. It's got a lot of miles on her. We paid $5,000.
And she needed help.
He was asking $6,000. It needed a ton of help. We've put another 3 or 4 into it, and basically replacing a ton of stuff.
It needs more.
It still needs more. It doesn't look much different.
It has new seats.
So the bottom end is.
Honestly, that was about as cheap as we could get.
If it's a running vehicle, there's nothing under $3-4 grand, and that is beat to death with more kajillion miles.
If you want something that is simply going to run.
Yeah.
And you're looking at how much?
About what we paid as the minimum.
Yeah, the minimum, but I don't.
Once you get up to 10-15 grand, there's a bunch of used vehicles for sale, and new vehicles. They're about a third more. than the U.S. and not your high-end models. Like
because when you think about it,
your low-end
everything is
stuff.
imported. And
Everything's imported. There's
import
tariffs.
And, yeah. So vehicle is not cheap here.
No.
There are some things that we were surprised at how inexpensive they are, and the opposite as well.
Yeah,
I didn't expect
motorcycles
to be that much.
really cheap.
Everybody has motorcycles here.
Japanese motorcycles very expensive. A Japanese motorcycle here, the Honda dealer, eye-watering prices. The little 190 that I have, I want to say starts at like 4,800 or something dumb, for the most super basic little 190. Then you get into their nicer models. The 250 is like $8,000. They have a 300 something, and you're in a $12,000-$14,000 real quick for what's considered in the US a small motorcycle. Now, Chinese bikes, oh man, there's a ton of them, ton of brands. That's what everybody rides. They're going to start at about $1,000 for enduro style, real popular. There's also street bikes. $1,500 to get you a nice one. $2,000 will get you like a beautiful 250 decked out with bags and things and handlebar covers and extra lights, and those are cheap.
Phones and plans,
right,
are important. We always recommend to everyone you immediately get a phone plan when you get here, even if you're just visiting, because it is hard to get around without one.
People are like, oh wow, I'm just gonna nod. I'm just gonna bounce from like Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we tried. It was so stressful.
You can do it, but
it's so cheap to just get a plan. So plans are cheap.
Yeah, basically you ask for a chip.
Yeah,
is the way they refer it. And it's free or a few dollars for the chip. $8, at least with 20, gets you a full month of. They include WhatsApp and something else,
which is the main way of communicating.
And you'll get your 8 gigs of data or something like that, and some minutes. Everybody uses WhatsApp. It's all data. Nobody calls here.
They call through WhatsApp.
Everybody calls through WhatsApp. And they message through WhatsApp.
And so phones themselves, if you need a new phone here,
they're different. So mostly you get your Chinese phones, Honor, I don't even know all the brands. I've only briefly looked at them. On the low end, $100 you could get one. It's questionable. $200 gets you a nice phone. $300 gets you a super fancy Chinese phone. iPhones, super premium. They were selling, when I was last in Loja, 3 models old for the price of the brand new one in the US. So expect to pay, at least for like iPhones and some of the other fancy tech, the newest like Samsung thing, whatever, at least a 30% overage.
And is that true for most electronic devices, like laptop and all those things?
Yeah, it's the electronics here are all tariffed, so you're going to pay a little more, or you're going to get a slightly lower end thing for the same money. That's just sort of what that is.
All right, back to properties for a minute. Property taxes.
Right.
While it is not something that you always think about, it's important.
So friends in the U.S., Foster City, who showed me their property tax bill. Wouldn't you rather have had a new Mustang this year? Eye-watering. Oh my God. Retired. Like they're retired. And the property taxes are just, for what? Right. So that's California. Here, property taxes about the cost of lunch.
Nice lunch, maybe.
It was less than $20 for each of our properties, including the fire department surcharge.
And that's per year.
Yeah. Now that was a rural property without house, which is what ours was. I'm sure it goes up slightly the more you improve your property.
Of course.
That being said, it's still really cheap.
So cheap. Professionals.
Ooh.
Could encompass many things.
Right. Your casual day laborer, unskilled, $20 a day. They're going to show up. Just them.
Maybe a machete. Maybe a machete.
Maybe
That's about it.
That's about it. You're going to hire a crew of people to like do stuff around your place. More typical is $25, and that will make them happier if you offer that rather than the 20, which is like the minimum. When you get people with a weed whacker or a someone who knows electrical or someone who's going to like build your roof, $30 a day. Up into, you get, like our engineer, I think charges $200 a day, and he's like the predominant engineer for, he does roads and buildings and things and surveys and stuff and everything else. And he's like 200 for the day.
And that's true of pretty much anyone you're going to hire, regardless of what they do in your life for you.
Yeah.
It's all really, really affordable.
It's really affordable.
If you do not want to buy a vehicle or rent a vehicle, public transport is huge here.
Most people don't have a vehicle.
And it's really cheap.
It's good. It's good. The bus system is robust and efficient. Like there's a lot of them. Like they'll chase each other all day long. There's the buses between cities, which if you sit on the side of the road and just throw your hand up, a bus will stop and pick you up right there on the side of the road.
Yep. And how much does that cost?
It's hard to tell. It's like mileage based. You tell them where you're going, and they tell you, oh, it's 80 cents, it's $1.20, it's things, it's $2.
But I mean, that's the kind of pricing we're looking at.
I think I paid $1 to go between two towns, and it was like a 20-minute journey on the highway.
And it was like, I don't remember. At one point, we went from Loja to Zamora, and that was many years ago.
From where we are, it's a 3-hour journey to Loja, and I think it's $5.
That's why I was going to say it was $5 from Loja to Zamora.
Yeah, it's like $5.
Yeah. It's super, super affordable. Honestly, it's probably cheaper than the gas you would need.
Yep.
You just have to want to be on the bus. And then not have a vehicle once you get to your destination. And if that works with how you're traveling, I think it's a great option.
So, taxis.
Taxis are a different option.
In the US, I wouldn't even think about taking a taxi anywhere because, oh my gosh, the expense.
So expensive.
And people are like, oh, I'll just Uber here and Uber there, like for $50, $80.
Insane.
And I just look at it like, it just makes part of me cry. Like, it's just the sheer, like, absurdity of costs of everything. Okay, taxis here. Loja, whatever size city Loja is.
It's pretty sprawling. Like it's
a long, skinny city. It's a valley.
Yeah.
$3 will get you end to end.
Yep.
Pretty much, you get in a taxi. You're gonna throw the guy $1 or $2, and it'll get you wherever you need to go. Tipping is not required, although very much appreciated. An extra 50 cents, the dude's very happy.
Now, you can also use taxis to get from the airport, like say if you're going to Loja, the airport is not actually in Loja, it's in Catamayo, so you've got like an hour and some drive. Over a pass. Which, there's taxis. I don't remember how much they cost or should cost.
I think it was about 20.
I was going to say somewhere between 20 and 30, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
So just as an idea of how much it costs for that, unless you have someone to pick you up, honestly, just take a taxi. Yeah. Because I know at least in Quito and Loja, the airports are not in the city just because of how the city, the cities are very crowded here.
There's no room for an airport.
The airport is outside of, and it's like an hour away. So you just take a taxi.
Yeah.
You can also take taxis between cities. We have done that. Varying degrees of success.
Like Loja to Vilca was another 20.
Yeah.
So I guess that's about a $20 an hour rate for a taxi.
I would say that's about right. So there's that. So if you go out to eat.
Sure.
Which we don't anymore, really ever. But once upon a time we did when we first moved here because traveling around, bebopping around, doing things. Meals here are very cheap.
So your Ecuadorian standard meal, which is rotisserie chicken, fries, rice, beans,
soup.
little salad, soup. Yeah, usually a chicken soup. $3.50, $5, something like that. It's always you order based on how much chicken.
Yep.
So there's like
Quarter,
an eighth,
half full.
yeah, an eighth, quarter, half full.
Yep.
I think like a quarter chicken, which is like a leg and a thigh, which is our kind of normal. It's like $4 or $5 for the plate.
Yep.
So that's
a lot of food, honestly, even for us.
Yeah, and that's available anywhere in Ecuador, and it's pretty good. And gluten-free.
Kind of standard.
Yeah.
And of course, you get into your fancier restaurants. That will be more. You get into more touristy areas, or more like Vilca is going to be more expensive.
Vilca,
because of what it is.
Yeah, while there is
Gringo pricing, it's just a thing.
More exotic for local things, it is based on a lot of gringo money showing up. So everything is your necessities, your basics are more expensive. Yeah. But then there's all the specialty items that are imported or made specially for that crowd, which are more expensive again.
Yeah, and again, of course, more rural, cheaper, typically.
Yeah.
Typically, not always. Healthcare. People have asked often about the healthcare here, not just the availability, but the cost. Now, we can't speak with tons of experience because we don't partake in healthcare terribly often. We just don't need to. We did do a video on dental.
We did.
Because I have done that plenty. We'll link that, which kind of goes into more details about quality and specific pricing, but it's really, really cheap.
It's really cheap. Medical.
How much were the fillings? I can't remember.
20?
Oh, I don't think they were 20. They might have been 20 each.
It was 20 each, but then because he had to do several, he discounted it.
That's right. Get a discount.
He did a bunch of ones.
Yay. It's a weird discount.
Yeah.
So $20 for a filling. How much did we pay when I had my last tooth out?
30.
30.
For, yeah, it was about...
Full extraction.
Yeah, supplies, things, everything else. Did a really nice job. The lady was really good at it.
Really good.
Yeah.
So
would recommend.
Just get an idea if that's incredibly cheap. Whenever I tell my mom that, she gets very mad.
Yeah. Your mom and my mom both, I think, just had to have like a tooth out or something.
Yeah, my mom had a root canal.
Yeah.
And it's just like astronomically expensive.
Mine, like, I don't know, $1,000+ for a tooth extraction. I'm like, yep, $30. Did a good job. Used like nice little supplies, things.
All done.
Yeah.
Great.
That's great.
Now, you had some medical care.
I did, and I had to go to the hospital. I had a weird thing with my hand. It stopped working.
Never really resolved it, but that's besides the
point. It has started working again.
Besides the point. Had nothing to do with the medical care.
Right. So I went, and everything was free. They did an exam and they went through some stuff. They did x-rays, they did blood work, they were looking for different things, and then there was another follow-up. It was sort of inconclusive. They recommended I do a bunch of tests that they didn't offer at the hospital, which means it wasn't for free, which means I would have to pay for it. And the tests were like $12 or $18 or something for like the specialty blood tests.
And other than that, the entire experience was free.
Yeah.
And we had people from like the local clinic show up like all the way out our little road.
They drive around to like all the neighbors, like, oh, we keep track of everybody. This, like, is there something you need? Is there a medical care thing? It's all for free, like
everything. Huh. Well, okay then.
Yeah, and she was telling me the nurse who shows up, who spoke English, she's like, yeah, she was like, I have to have some special medication for an autoimmune disorder, and it's $500 a month if I had to pay for it. But she goes, yeah, it's covered. Wow.
Which is pretty amazing.
That's neat.
Yeah. So that's something to know.
Yeah, it's not a perfect system. When my neighbor got in a motorcycle accident, like it was end of fiscal year, the hospital had like run out of money. So they didn't have the supplies to repin his leg. And he ended up having to like get a loan to have it done for private.
Yeah, it isn't perfect.
Yeah, so he I think he said he paid like $6,000
So basically, if you need medical care, do it in the beginning of the year. Just don't get hurt in the end of the year.
But he, like, it was a motorcycle into car head on at an intersection.
Bad.
Just
So bad.
smashulated his leg, and he had to have all sorts of hardware and pins and things. Like,
and it was still only like $6,000,
yeah.
which is still really cheap. I know it's a lot, but in relation to other countries, it is still very, very cheap.
Yeah, and I think he's still trying to like they did the surgery for him, and he didn't have the money, and he's trying to like raise the money and pay it off or something.
But still,
yeah,
it is far cheaper than other places.
Yeah, it's cheaper to fly here, have it done, stay in a hotel and eat, and go back than it is to just have it done in the U.S. Even for simple things like a root
Dental
canal.
procedures, yeah. It's strange, but actual like health, what do they call it? Health tourism, dental tourism is a real thing here because, and I mean, I'll say it's actually pretty good. Like, I'm pretty happy with the care, at least in what we have done.
Yeah.
I don't know about big hospitals and things. Big hospitals are big hospitals, but
yeah,
it's been pretty good and cheap. Pharmacy.
So you can buy pretty much anything you want over the counter.
Like we are used to prescriptions.
A prescription
in the U.S.
is really just a piece of paper to make sure that you got the correct thing from the pharmacy. It wasn't like it was an authorization like the U.S.
Which we finally realized that we could actually just go and ask for something at the pharmacy.
Like, I want antibiotics. Okay, which ones? How big? How many?
Now that is where having your little piece of paper comes in handy.
Sure.
But you can also just go ask.
Yeah. Like, I want some ivermectin. Sure. How many? And those were for the 6 milligram pills, 50 cents a piece.
Yeah. And how much are antibiotics?
Gosh.
Man, they weren't astronomical.
Yeah, we got a whole course of it. It was like $5.
Yeah. So they're really cheap.
Yeah.
And that goes for pretty much anything you want. And you don't... It's interesting, the setup here is basically everything is in a pharmacy. So you want your ibuprofen. It's at a pharmacy. You want your...
The ibuprofens...
supplements.
For 600 milligrams were 10 cents each.
They're a little bit more expensive here.
Well, that would be about 3 1/3 cents for the 200 milligrams, which I think was what we paid for Costco in the big bottle.
Because it was a smaller milligrams. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So similar.
So pretty much that's a world commodity.
But it is all very available. There is I can't even begin to tell you how many pharmacies there are, even in the tiny towns. Our little town has like 3.
Maybe 4, 5. Like,
they're everywhere. On
do
every
we need
corner.
that many?
It's so many. And you just walk up and you ask what you want, and you tell them what you want, and it's cheap.
Yeah.
All super accessible. Gas, diesel, propane.
Now, these are all regulated by the government. Propane is the cheapest. It is $1.65 for a 40-pound exchangeable tank.
Which is a double, barbecue tank.
Double barbecue. We run one for our shower, one for the stove, and then we have one just that we carry around for work. They last a long time. They're $1.65, which I think the last price that I saw in the U.S. for a barbecue tank was about $25 on a refill.
Yeah, no.
So this would be a $50 tank for $1.65. Diesel is...
But that price is only if you go...
If you go to the official service centers, which are only every so often. If you get it off the guy who delivers it to your door on a truck...
Or just drives around town and you go and yell at them.
$3.25, $3.50.
Yeah.
Diesel was $1... I remember, we don't buy diesel. $1.80?
Oh, I was going to $1.70 something, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's a fixed price from the government. It is subsidized. So diesel's real cheap. Gas is gone up a bit. It's like $2.60, $2.70 for low grade, which is a lower octane than normal. We get away with it at higher elevation. Your premium, which is a 94 octane, is $3.50 last time I saw.
We talked about utility bills a bit, unless you have something else to say. Okay.
Yeah, water's really cheap.
I honestly don't know how much it is.
Sometimes it's included.
I want to say that they were paid together. The power and water were just paid together. I don't think we had separate bills, but I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I don't know.
We
Usually,
haven't had those bills in a long time.
most people I talk to who rent a place, it's paid by the landlord. They don't bother switching it to your name, and you just pay them the little bit that your utilities are and the power.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Switching a little bit to
Internet. We'll cover internet under utilities.
I had it over here, but sure.
Fiber is super common. You can get cheap fiber for $10. You can get fast fiber for $15 or $20 a month. We have Starlink, which is pretty fast. It does real good here because there's not a ton of saturation. So we get whatever full speed the system can do. And $45 a month is the current price for that.
Yep. So if you're in town, I mean, honestly, getting whatever internet is available is super cheap.
Yep.
Works well. But if you want to be rural, it doesn't mean that you can't have internet for relatively cheap. I mean, $45 a month is pretty dang cheap.
By U.S. standards, it's cheap. By Ecuadorian standards, they stare at you like.
But that's clothes. We, if you watch our videos, don't buy clothes.
All of our clothes are the same clothes we brought with us from the U.S.
It's about
We're down to 70% rags, and 30% what you would call worn out clothes.
Yeah. We will be buying more clothes in the near future, hopefully. But
or see us naked in the future.
Okay, no,
not on
we're
YouTube.
not that kind of. We're not that kind of channel.
We'll have like chayote leaves and loincloths.
Oh boy. We don't have a lot of experience buying clothes. I will say I am surprised at how expensive I have seen are.
I bought jeans.
You did buy jeans, and you've worn them like twice.
Yeah, they're not
They're not
good.
Okay.
$15, $20 was a pair of jeans, which I'm like, that's pretty much Walmart pricing.
Yep.
They're all made locally.
The jeans?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of the other clothes are imported.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff's imported, but there's also a ton of like seamstress places. A lot of women's fashion is all just made here.
And I don't know the pricing on that, but what other people have said is that it's really reasonable. We just don't have that experience. We just don't.
Yeah.
We bought boots. Bought lots of boots.
Rain boots.
Rain boots are cheap. Everybody wears rain boots.
Yeah, $8, $10.
15.
Yeah, for a pair of them. There's no super fancy ones. There's no muck boots. There's no Uggs. There's rubber boots without insoles. You put your own insoles in. Bring your own insoles. Can't find good insoles here. There's these little floppy things. The kid blows them out in a week, shredded.
Yeah, I'm sure there are in fancy stores. We just don't go to
Not
those.
near us.
No, we don't have fancy stores.
We don't have
and I'm sure we'll find some better options for clothing when the time comes. But,
yeah.
We could definitely do a video on that. I was thinking when we do actually buy some clothes, have some expendable money, and buy some clothes, I'd love to do a video.
We'll document it.
That experience, because we actually haven't done it in 3.5 years.
No.
Animal feed. If you are the homesteading type.
So goats eat grass. Cheap. Just your time to move them around. As far as animal feed, so corn fluctuates slightly, basically 25 cents a pound for corn. Your composite animal feeds with minerals and things, and like the balanced food, they call it balanceado, tends to be about 35 cents a pound.
Is that true for all of them, like chicken and pig?
Yeah.
And separate things.
Yeah,
And then how much is the cooey food?
We're buying it in small bags, so it's 40 cents a pound, but it would be cheaper in a big bag.
Of course.
So you get down to like 32, 33, 37. In the 30s is kind of all the foods.
Okay. So yeah, I actually use the cooey food. It's designed for cooeys, which are
guinea pigs.
Found out it's actually a great feed for the goats. It's very, very similar to goat feed. It's actually, I think, a little bit better than goat feed.
Yeah.
It's a little less of the secondary processed grain things, and it's mostly alfalfa.
Yeah.
And corn, I think.
Yeah. So a little bit of minerals and some.
We do buy minerals. I have absolutely no idea how much they cost because we bought them a long time ago.
We bought like a 50-pound bag
big,
of
heavy.
like balanced animal mineral, and It was
I have no idea.
like $25, $30.
And it has lasted for a very, very long time.
Years. Yeah, they each get just a tiny little bit a day.
Yeah, so animal feed is so much cheaper here. It feels like a big portion of our measly income
It is.
or non-income, but then I look at the cost of feed in other places like the US or Canada, and I'm like, never mind. Hay is not really, doesn't exist here.
There's a place in Loja that has it, but it's like one.
And they don't have a ton, and nobody really uses it.
We bought alfalfa there.
Yeah.
And they had that, and they had hay.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not common because
No.
it is a year-round climate. Animals are just out on grass that is free.
It's also a humid
more
place.
economical. Hay does not do well here,
No, molds.
so it's just not common to find.
Yeah.
I know some people have said they found it some places. That's great. Not common. It wouldn't be something to rely on.
Yep.
For animals. Along the same lines with animals, vet costs.
Vet costs are about the same as medical costs.
Honestly, yeah.
We had an emergency with a goat.
The very first one. Was that the first one with Sally?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she got loose, found the bag of corn, ate it like an absolute fruitcake.
Moron.
She moroned on the corn. She got really sick, which is a thing with goats.
Any ruminant can't have too much grain. And yep. Yep.
So we called a person who says they know a guy who's actually, he turned out to be like an instructor at the local university for the veterinary school.
Nice guy.
But he does house calls. He shows up, drives to us in the middle of the night.
We met him in front of like Hipiro
We
Park
couldn't give directions.
in Loja because we hadn't been there that long. Getting directions are tough. Oh my gosh, communication thing.
So we're like, the park. We'll meet you in
Stuck
front of
goat
the park and like the theater. And he's like, okay.
So he jumps in the van with the goat.
And it's raining, and so he's just like in our tiny van, jumps in the back, and he's this night pulls out his bag of stuff, and he just starts opening this. Oh, she needs a liver protector, and she needs this, and something to neutralize the acid in her stomach, and this, and a rumen fixer.
Gosh.
And so he's giving her like shots and things, and I only paid him $20.
I think it was 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for the service call and all the stuff and everything else.
Yeah.
We've had other stuff done since, and it's been really cheap.
Really, really cheap. Our local vet here is a really great guy. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And we'll buy whatever we need, usually through him, or there's one other place in town. Everything's relatively cheap as far as like your medications and things. We're on the low end of having all those medications. We don't do a lot, but occasionally we want some things, and it's all really, really affordable.
Yeah.
And accessible, which is really important. You just go buy the things. Just like with the pharmacies for humans, you can just go buy the things.
Yeah, whatever you need,
you don't need to pay for the vet to like look at your animal. You just say, hey,
and prescribe a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Mechanics.
So we have a very nice mechanic in Loja. I would recommend in a heartbeat. Excellent human and a good mechanic. I don't know his hourly rate. There's not like, and this gets me sometimes. And I've tried to have things quoted. Like we had a project, and I was trying to have some electrical work quoted, and I'm like, how much per hour, per day, per thing? And he's like, well, what do you want me to install? And I'm like,
Stop.
I don't know, dude. It's a huge property. We need power poles and things and wires and stuff and this and that. And they price things like how many outlets they're putting in, how many switches they're putting in, how many like. But the switch could be up the top of a mountain. They charge per switch. Like, so I just couldn't wrap my head around like, but how much just to hire you for the day? And they wouldn't even quote me. Like the dude stopped responding. Like, just how much? I'll hire you for the whole day. How much?
It just doesn't work like that.
Nope, just wouldn't do it. So the mechanic is on a per job basis, and after a while, like I realized it is not correct to ask beforehand. Like you just have him do it, and then he tells you how much it is after, and that's normal. But oh my god, like we had so much. I had a new bushing made. I had to pull the transmission apart, and I had to have a new bushing made. The bushing was like $10 to have it custom machined. It was $30 to like drop the transmission, open it, do the whole thing. The oil was almost as much. I had to have a couple of quarts of tranny oil, which was $20. But the actual like labor and it was really cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the big one that most people are probably wondering: how much does it cost to eat? Now we also did a video on this, where we kind of went through like what we buy
Sure.
on our Sunday market adventure
Sure.
and how much it costs.
But let's give a rough number. If we spend little goats.
Little goats.
If we go to the big market, we'll spend $40-ish on fruits and vegetables.
Yep.
It's pretty common. And then we're going to go to another store and we're going to buy some sundries.
Sundries.
Is that what it is? Toilet paper, sugar, dish soap.
Coffee, tea.
Yeah, some dry stuff. We'll spend another $40 with that.
No, not every week.
Not every week.
No.
Toilet paper, like we've been buying, because it's the only thing we can find unscented, the big like commercial rolls of toilet paper, like you'd see in like a big business, because all the regular rolls are scented.
We don't
they smell so bad. But it's $2 for a 200-meter roll of toilet paper. So we have this giant roll in the bathroom that lasts a long time, and it's $2. So that's pretty cheap. So we'll spend that, and then meat.
If you are buying meat at a butcher,
so all your proteins are chicken's the cheapest. You'll get whole chicken sometimes down to $1.50, $1.40 a pound, something like that. Beef, we're at $2.75.
Yes.
Pork, I think, was cheaper and then is now the same at $2.75.
It's $2.50.
It's $2.50.
It's $2.50. And certain cuts will be a little bit cheaper, and certain cuts will be a little bit more. But overall, it's about the same.
Yeah. Yeah. They charge extra for the skin.
The thing.
Most expensive thing in the butcher is like the pig skin.
So that's kind of your proteins. So fruits and vegetables.
Shrimp. I think shrimp was $3 a pound.
Oh, it's more than that.
$2.50?
Oh no! It was like $3.75 in Loja when we were buying it.
No, I meant shrimp guy.
Oh, I don't know about shrimp guy. I haven't talked about shrimp guy.
I thought it was. Anyway,
you might be cheaper.
More or less $3 a pound will get you any protein you want.
As far as some examples of like fruits and vegetable costs.
Yeah.
We've been getting 40 limes for $1.
Yeah.
That varies throughout the year. At one point, we couldn't get even 8 for $1.
Seasonal's a bigger thing here.
Well, it's interesting because while there aren't such distinct seasons here, there are still seasons with fruit and vegetables. And because there is less imported, when there just aren't very many limes, they're very expensive. And then the things that are imported from like Chile or somewhere are really expensive. You get like 3 or 4 apples for $1.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
And if it was a good season and it was nice and sunny and wonderful, stuff's cheaper. And trucks show up with bounty, and it gets real cheap.
Your watermelon, your mangoes, your things like that.
And when the weather wasn't favorable, you just don't see those trucks, and you're only at the crate imported pricings.
Yep. Let's see, potatoes anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds for $1.
Yep. Onions about the same. Varies.
Yeah, 2 to 3 usually on those. 1 to 3 sometimes.
I've seen 4. Depends on the size. Bigger ones more. Smaller ones cheaper.
Well, let's see.
Garlic.
I was going to say garlic too. It's important. We like the Criollo garlic, which is the local garlic, which does not come from China.
Actually, most of the garlic here doesn't. It comes from Chile. I think they tell me.
And some
the
of
white garlic.
Some of it's also Chinese.
Okay.
You can see it. Yeah, it's different.
Sorry.
We're staring at the baby goats.
Baby goats galloping down the hill. Oh, straight for the mangoes.
Rescue the goat.
She's this big and the sweetest little goat. We just let her go, and she just follows mostly, except when she stops for green thing. Okay. Side note.
It's distracting. They're cute. What else? What else?
I'll put a clip of the little baby goats at the end of the video.
What else do we buy regularly? Carrots.
Carrots.
Random things. I have some things I buy every single week.
4 pounds for the $1.
Sometimes 3 to 4. Cilantro, you get. Oh, that. Well, I was gonna do more.
That's a quarter.
Oh, I was gonna do. Who buys that little?
Most people.
I know. I usually like.
It's a whole plant. They jerk it out of the ground. If you can put your finger around it, that's a quarter. Green onions.
Green onions about that for a quarter, depending on who you ask. It'll change a little bit. I don't know. And as far as things you buy in a store, we just don't buy a lot of processed foods. It's just not a thing that we buy a lot of. You get 2 kilograms of sugar for $2.15. I only know this because we bought it yesterday, and I paid attention.
It used to be $1 a kilo, and it's now crept up just over.
Just a smidge.
And a kilogram is 2.2 pounds.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
What else? Rice, anywhere from like $12 to $17 for a
14 or 15 pounds for a 25-pound bag.
$14 or $15.
Yeah. $14 or $15 for a 25-pound sack.
And we've got down a little cheaper, and we've definitely spent a little bit more. But that's not too terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just kind of an example of the cost of food. It's pretty reasonable. It can be way cheaper, or it can be more expensive depending on where you go. You can buy fruits and vegetables at Super Maxi or Tia or something, and they're going to be more.
It is
and
more.
They're going to be less fresh.
Avocados.
Oh, that's important. Can't believe I forgot that. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's critical.
Let's see. It depends on their size.
Depends on the person.
Depends on the person.
Depends on your relationship with said
Depends
person.
on the season. I've seen everything from 75 cents for a single very large avocado, right down to they are large plum-sized. And we were getting them at 4 or 5 for the $1.
Yeah.
Pretty typical.
Sort of a medium-sized 3 for $1.
Yeah.
Is kind of the average.
Yeah.
It depends, again, on where you go.
Yeah, if they're slightly bigger, at 2 for $1.
If you have a specific market that you go to all the time, you end up having relationships with those vendors.
We have noticed that our deals got better over time, even though we were told they will never charge you less, like what you pay in the beginning, and that's it. It'll never. No, that's actually a lie.
Take care of us.
We've found that the more we go to a place, the nicer they treat us. They greet us with a smile. The prices go down. Our price on eggs, like the lady, like we talk things with yeah, she's nice. And the price of eggs is like every so often.
Oh, how much are eggs?
Right.
Important things.
Normally about $3.50 for a cubeta, which is 30 eggs.
Those are like sort of bottom of the barrel eggs.
Just cheap commodity. They come on a
barrel eggs.
They come in a giant truck.
We were getting the good eggs.
She's charging us 3 1/4.
Yeah.
And it was like $3.30 or $3.40, but
and the good eggs.
We go there more, so she charges us
like the more
less.
natural, like not natural, but like the better eggs.
Which are
we're getting
literally like they gather them from people's like homes, farms, things, and they sort of like aggregate them.
We were spending, I think, $7.50.
Yep.
For the 30 eggs.
$7, $8, $9 in a city for a flat, which is translates to 25-30 cents an egg.
Yep. Yep.
They're better, mostly. Depends how they're keeping their chickens.
But if you know the person who's selling them.
They're all different colors and things from they're not just like brown eggs. There's no white eggs.
Strangely, I don't see white eggs here. I find it very strange.
Yeah.
Odd note. All right, moving on. We talked about internet. Now water. There is the utility bill, water.
Right.
Water bill, utility bill. There we go. I get there eventually. And that's super cheap. But don't drink the water. It's just a fact. Don't drink it. Some people are okay with it.
A lot of people do.
Ecuadorians are okay with it.
And they don't tell me that there's a ton of problems. Ecuadorians are fine.
But anywhere that you grow up with a certain thing, Like, I mean, let's be fair. So India, well, I would just die going there and trying to consume anything. They're fine because that is how they have grown up and become accustomed to, and that's just normal. As a gringo, I don't think you should drink water.
You're accustomed to a different bacteria set, or none, if you were raised in the antiseptic world of hand sanitizers and bleached water and everything else.
I would not drink the water.
Yeah.
Doesn't go well. So you buy there's the big, I don't know what they're called, big jugs. You know, big blue jugs.
The 5-gallon jug?
The big blue jugs that we all know as water
Yeah.
jugs. I am not convinced that they refill it with clean water all the time. My personal opinion.
It depends.
It depends, and
Mostly,
I'm just not convinced they always
mostly
do.
Yes.
How much? Do you know how much those are?
They're like $2.
They're really
$2.50.
cheap.
Yeah.
We had to buy some at one point because there was.
You get your water cooler. You can get it delivery as well.
Yeah.
You can buy.
They drive around just like the propane trucks.
Yep,
drive
in
around
cities.
the water trucks with all of those.
Now, I think because we were planning an off-grid adventure, we brought a little water sanitization, filtration, sterilization. That's a lot of words. Kit.
Which we hooked up to our rental house in Loja.
And we had it sitting in our container, and we're like.
And we're trying to buy water and boil water and things, and we're like, well, why don't we just. So
we pulled it out of the container, and we went and we cut the plumbing. I told the landlord I was going to do it, and he's like, well, okay. He just said I had to put it back when I was done. I'm like,
Okay.
So we cut the plumbing and we installed the whole house water filter like right into the rental house to UV sanitize and filter all of our water, which is a really good idea because in the US, all the water is chlorinated or chloramined, chlorine ammonia molecule. It kills fish. Here, while they do chlorinate it, in the US, if there's ever a pressure drop, there's boil water alerts go to everybody of like, there was a system pressure drop, which means any leak turned into a suction, which means soil bacteria can get into the pipes. You have to boil your water. It's a safety precaution. Here, they turn, like in Loja, they turn the water off all the time.
All the time.
Oh, we just, because they do batches of water. The batch wasn't ready. So they just turn off the water until the new batch is like sanitized.
Breaks or this or that. They turn off water all the time.
So you'll hear it like leave, and then everybody puts in these extra tanks and pumps so that they have water. But then you're
using the water and you hear the pump and you're like, oh,
we're on the pump again.
Oh.
And that water just sits in your tank for who knows how long. And then like all the water in the street just drains out, and then you'll hear bubbles, and like they'll turn on the water some hours later or days later.
Yeah.
Pipes there aren't magically better. So there's all sorts of stuff like. Again, the Ecuadorians are fine with it. The sanitizer improved our health.
Yep.
I would suggest bringing one, even if it's going to be in a rental, and you're planning to live
here.
Well,
and also if you're planning on like moving here permanently, it will pay for itself.
Oh yeah.
It's so much cheaper in the end than having to constantly buy water.
And this is not like a deionization unit. It is sediment filter, carbon filter, UV sterilizing tube.
Again, you have a video on it.
Yeah.
Let's see, appliances. The rental house that we had, strangely enough, ovens.
Ovens are less common here.
Which I had no idea about.
A really fancy house will have an oven.
Yeah, I really didn't realize. So there was a cooktop stove.
Yeah.
Top of a stove. See, I don't even know what to call it. I'm not used to
it. It's a bunch of gas burners.
And I was like, okay, so I need an oven. Sorry.
You're an oveny kind of person.
I'm an oveny kind of person. We like things that go in ovens. So we bought our stove for the rental house and have drug it around.
Yeah. So we had a stove oven outside the kitchen next to the dining room.
It's the only place to put it. How much was that?
Oh gosh.
It was like $350, $400, something.
Yeah.
Indorama. Most things are Indoramas. One of the most common.
It's because of tariffs. There's a bunch of Ecuadorian produced things. A lot of the appliances,
which makes them cheaper.
It is. I want to say it was 400 and
they're
something.
They're also not amazing. Put it that way. It will one day be replaced.
Basically, a lot of the niceties are sort of not there. Your stove doesn't have like the wide range of flame. It sort of has like here to here rather than smaller to bigger.
If you would like to set your oven at 300 degrees, you don't have that option. You have a dial, and you guess, and you eventually learn what that might be.
The oven thermometer could help you. It doesn't have the greatest flame spreader at the bottom.
There's no insulation whatsoever, so you just basically bake your kitchen.
And there's no insulation in the sides, because that's something you don't see that makes it cost more, so they don't put it in, which means you crank it, which isn't as high as some ovens would be anyway, and it just never gets hot enough.
Your oven or your kitchen gets very warm, though.
That's true.
It's very warm. What other appliances? Our fridge is a big old glass front fridge for... I don't know how much we spent. I don't think you told me.
The fridge was expensive.
The fridge was expensive. It was a bit of a splurge.
I want to say it was closer to $500, but we bought a commercial fridge. It has no freezer. It's a huge, massive fridge with a glass door and a ton of shelves.
Works well for us. And then our deep freezer, which is a... Oh, I do not remember its size currently.
It's normal
It's like
size.
a 5 cubic. I don't know, making that up.
25?
No, it's not that big.
I don't know.
It's not that big.
It's
It's 4.5 by 2 and a bit feet.
Yeah, so about a 4.5 foot wide freezer. I want to say that was like 300 and change.
Yep.
Clothes washer.
Washing machine.
Pretty much everything seemed like the 300 to 500 range.
Yep.
Is
Unless
like,
you get into like crazy big or crazy fancy or something.
oh, you can buy fridges up over $1,000, like they exist. $1,500, your big double door fancy with a TV in it.
It exists here.
They exist. 300 is your low end for an appliance. 500-600 is your high end. Pretty much any appliance is about the same.
Yeah. So really rather affordable if you look at U.S. prices.
Sure.
I don't know if you've looked at that recently.
No.
It's horrifying. So
Okay.
we're at like at least half, maybe less than half the price.
Oof.
Yeah. Okay. Unless there's something else?
No.
Do you have anything else in your mind?
No.
Okay. Nothing else. Just empty up there.
This is why there's a list.
The only other point we want to make, talk a whole bunch about money, how much things cost. If you are an expat, an immigrant, whatever you want to call yourself, coming from a different country to Ecuador to live temporarily, permanently, part of the year, whatever, and you are keeping a bank account in your original home country,
Which is useful.
it's useful. It can be useful for lots of things. We're still running into little like snafus about like we can't access our freaking PayPal accounts because they don't like that we're somewhere else.
Or that we've changed our phone numbers.
Things get all snarky.
You had to put in your new phone number that
my
you didn't have first.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Now they'll only send a thing to our old phone number in the US. I'm like, it's not our phone number anymore.
But as far as transferring money, because we have money that goes
Also, nobody here uses PayPal really.
No. Well, we have things that go into a U.S. bank account. It started out with like when we sold our house.
Sure.
Lots of times things need to go into that bank account. To transfer money from your, say, U.S. bank account to your Ecuadorian bank account, the fees were... bleh.
So you had to go through an intermediate.
Oh, that's right. I had to go through...
Right. So it went through Chase, which means technically Chase would do a direct transfer, but I don't know that anybody else does. So the other banks, like Wells Fargo, B of A, have to go through
an international bank, right?
International intermediary, which was Chase. So there's a first transfer, and then there's a second transfer to get you from that to, we had Banco de Loja. And all told, with all the fees and things, it was about $80 to do a wire transfer.
It's one of those, like, it's not a lot if you're doing one big transfer. Like when we transferred, like what we made off of selling our house in Tennessee. That's okay. It's like a small amount. But if you are getting, say you are retiring to Ecuador and you're getting your Social Security or retirement or whatever, and if that is something that goes into your bank account and you want to pull that out on a monthly or, every couple months basis, that starts adding up.
Now, there's a couple of things here. So one, that adds up. Two, if you're doing a certain visas require you having a deposit every month. I think there's a retirement visa, there's our investor visa. You had to have your bank statement showing a deposit every month. Now, that sort of means that it has to come from a different bank account somewhere. Every month it has to show a certain amount of money. We found out that Western Union is far cheaper and faster.
It is essentially instant.
Yeah, it doesn't have as high of a cap, but if you're doing a monthly thing, it is a much cheaper and easier option, but it doesn't count as a direct deposit to your bank account locally for your Visa.
So that's a separate.
And my one friend thought, well, instead of doing the $400 a month every month, I'll just do like, he had $1,000 that he'd do every other month trying to save on the fees, and they wouldn't give him his Visa.
Because it is to show that you have a certain amount of money per month.
And it had to be every month for like 18 months or 2 years or something.
And that was the temporary visa to then be able to get your permanent visa. Once you have your permanent visa, they don't care. You
can stop. But the Western Union, $10, $15.
No. Way less.
Okay.
It's like $5.
Okay.
It will eventually. The fee goes up with the amount you are transferring, basically. We've never had it transferred that much. I've never gotten it above like $8.
So
it's really cheap.
Don't look for, if you go to find a Western Union, don't look for a Western Union that says it's the Western Union official location, like the one in Zaza.
Like in Ecuador.
Dude's never there. It's never open.
The only official Western Union location I don't think I've ever seen open.
There's another one on the Google Maps that is literally not existing.
Like there's one in the bus station.
It was maybe there 20, and that one's gone.
Is that one gone?
Yeah, that one's gone too.
Oh,
but
fine.
When you just drive down the street and you look for these like little pay kiosks, you pay
for the little Western Union.
Your phone bill, your government bills, your things, your tax bill, your license, your something, your cable. They just have this they're just like a little payment center for whatever, and they say Western Union.
Just look for your little Western Union sign.
You go there with your ID and your number, and boom.
Tracking number.
Or a lot of we found a credit union. Because the Western Union was out of money. It was more than a couple hundred, and he was like, oh, I don't have it yet this morning. Wait till the afternoon. But it turns out a lot of credit unions and banks, if you go in, you say, do you do Western Union? No sign, no nothing. And they go, oh yeah. Hand them my thing.
Obviously, they have the money.
They have plenty of money. And there was no line.
Yeah.
So
it is very quick.
Because it is a distributed sort of, like a lot of people do it as a service, it is actually far more accessible than it's advertised.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, because Ecuador does not have addresses at all, or that align with the Western Union little form, you have to kind of cheat the form. And it works fine. You just have to know to do it.
Also, take a picture of all the information that you have input.
Like a screenshot.
They may ask you, what zip code did you put in?
Because there are no zip codes, so we put in zeros. And it's fine, as long as they match, and everybody don't.
Yeah. Just take a picture of the screen.
Yeah. But Western Union is a great way to get money from one country to the other.
Yeah.
With way less fees, and it's instant. And you are not beholden to, weekdays.
Oh, yeah, the bank took... When the bank, we did do a transfer, it was
it's only work days, and it's only this.
So it took more than a week, and then the one big transfer, they held it.
Took so long.
And we're like, where's the money? And they're like, oh, well, you have to come to the bank. So we had to go to the bank, and they're like, well, you have to provide documentation from your U.S. account showing that where you got the money. What? So yeah, we had to get paperwork and thing to show that it was our money from our house. And then they released it, and so it took weeks.
So Western Union, super awesome.
Yep.
Other people you can send it to yourself. Other people can send it to you.
Yep.
It's super easy.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's just a little note along with money.
So that you can take all these things and add them up together and figure out what it costs to live in Ecuador. If I had to put a number on our existence here, we're probably $800 a month. If we had $800 a month, we would continue forward. At 1,000, we would do better and be able to continue building and have
and that
clothes.
does include like some of our like specific needs.
Sure.
As far as a home.
But everybody has specific
I think
things of
it's
some
less.
nature.
You always think it's more. I always think it's less. Yeah. But
There you go.
It's definitely affordable.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Check out the newsletter. There's a link below. The newsletter is cool. Tells you about Ecuador and things and stuff.
There isn't a link. There is no link.
Email us, and we will just send you that newsletter directly.
There you go. We are getting our Substack
Yes.
figured out, put together this week. So
Please check out the Substack. It is all the things we cannot talk about on the YouTube and more.
And it's all organized. If you are only interested in Ecuador, there's all the Ecuador information we have done on YouTube, all the writing I have done, other things, kind of broken down by category.
Yes. So please check that out. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. See you for the next one. It's Missy. Hi, Missy. She's just a little goat. She's very sweet.